Hey everyone, I'm Superphiz, and today is, what is today? June 6th, 2022, here in the US. Is it 2022 where you are also as well, Ben?
It is 2022. Sometimes feels like 1950 over here, but it is indeed 2022.
So about every fortnight, Ben and I get together and we try to walk through Ben's newsletter, What's New in Eth2. This is the June 3rd edition. I think Ben and I both have a good time doing it. I learn a lot, and I don't know what he takes away, but he tolerates me. So
You might even get a mention in this one at the bottom, Fizz. I'll give my
hey,
thoughts on it.
I read it. So let's get through it. Hitchhiker's Guide to Ethereum. Wow.
This is monumental. This is, sometimes you see something and you're just kind of envious and you think, I wish I'd written that. And that is quality. John Charbonneau, I don't know him, at Delphi Digital. I don't know what prompted him writing the article, but it's a very solid, very lengthy deep dive into the future of Ethereum, and all the different technologies that we're heading towards. And it's very thorough, entertaining, accurate. Nothing bad to say about it. If you have an hour or two to spare, it would be well spent doing a deep dive into that.
I did the Bankless live stream, and I liked it enough that I added it again to watch later because it's consumable in the Bankless format, but it is I feel like I took so much away from it that I'm gonna need to simmer on that and then do it again in a week just to re-enjoy it. For me, it is. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of information there, and it's just such a pleasure to read things that are accurate, right, and comprehensive. There's so much misinformation, and we don't help ourselves because we're always changing the roadmap, and this stuff is complicated. But John has done a terrific job of really understanding and presenting very accurately all of the information.
Do you ever have that experience when you're like, wow, this person really gets it? And that's exactly the fun thing. Yeah. So this guy just really gets it. I had the same in regards to Bankless. I had the same feeling with Hal Press a couple weeks ago. I was like, wow, he just really gets it. He gets all the things that I'm thinking that I couldn't articulate that well. So that's a don't miss her. The big reorg. It seems like a long time ago now.
It does. Yeah, that was right at the start of the last kind of cycle of new and Eth2 stuff. So yeah, and the bottom line is really, nothing to see here. I mean, it's kind of was an event at the time, caused a stir. Have we designed a consensus mechanism that's fundamentally unstable? Are we facing, people's transactions getting lost in reorged blocks after the merge? And Martin Koppelman of Gnosis was a little bit shocked, surprised by it, but I think digging down into the root cause, it was just a thing where it's in the process of being fixed. In fact, this event, this reorg where 7 blocks got kicked out of the chain, was actually an artifact of the way that we're fixing this thing. Unfortunate, but and some lessons learned about how we can coordinate better in future to avoid this. I have to say that there are two in the last fortnight. There are sort of two lessons learned for the core devs, both about being perhaps slightly naive about approaching the way we plan things. And I think we need to think a little more adversarially. I mean, nothing bad happened, but
is that Robson TTT? Is that the other one?
Yeah, so the Robson TTD thing, which we'll come to in a moment, was one, and this reorg thing. The background is that we're rolling out a fix to an issue with the fork choice that was discovered some months ago, but we didn't plan to do a tightly coordinated fix. Client teams were allowed to roll it out as and when. People could upgrade their clients as and when. And when we had half the network that was fixed and half that was not fixed, then there was this conflict, which led to this reorg. Lesson learned, we should have coordinated it and basically done coordinated releases and got everybody to upgrade like when we do a hard fork.
Yeah, and I'd say this is kind of, the biggest issue that the beacon chain has experienced in, since December 2020, which is, you know, 16 months, 18 months. And so, 80 seconds of missed blocks is not bad.
Yeah, Teku took down 10% of validators for an hour. That was quite big. I'll put my hand up for that. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, those two incidents are trivial. There really has been almost nothing wrong with it and it's been running for what, year and a half. It's terrific.
I loved Barnaby's write-up. Between the writing that I could interpret and the wonderful graphics, I was really impressed. So thanks, Barnaby, for putting that up. I loved the slow and sequential progression. I was like, oh wow, I get this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks, Barnaby. I'm thinking about fork choice stuff can be tricky, but this is great, and he was able to access the data to make it accurate, which is excellent.
Let's talk about the deposit queue.
Yeah, and this is just a nicety that I observed. I think you posted the link initially, Fiz, it was on eStaker Reddit. So we have this limit. So you can put down deposits into the deposit contract if you want to onboard as a validator. And you can do as many as you want at any time. But they then get processed into the beacon chain. And then they are activated, and they're activated rather slowly. So when the beacon chain started, it was 4 deposits per epoch, which is 900 per day. And then when we reached 250,000 validators, 260,000 validators, then it ramped up to 5 per epoch. So 1,050 per day, 1,150 per day, maybe.
Doing math, that's pretty impressive.
I don't know. And then when we reached, that was at 327,000, yeah. And then we ramped up again to 6 per epoch, so it's like 900 times 1.5 is 1,350 per day now. So the background is, the rate at which we're able to onboard validators has increased, and it increases stepwise. What we want to avoid here is changing the validator set too rapidly. If you've got a bigger validator set, you can take on more, so without changing it in percentage terms too rapidly. So we only want 1% or 1 or 2% of the validator set to change per day, just to keep things stable enough that the consensus mechanism is stable. So that's the reason for it. And as the validator set grows, you can onboard at a higher rate. And the same when we get exits implemented. Well, exits are implemented, but you can exit, but nobody does because there's no withdrawals, right? But the same mechanism will apply to exits, so they're rate limited at the same rate.
The home takeaway for me is it's just an improved UX. Like, more validators mean that in general we can onboard more quickly, because as a home staker, it's like, let's get to the beacon chain, let's look at the queue, and how long do I have to wait? So it's kind of neat to get through that a little more quickly.
Yeah, I actually spun up a new validator, and it was my first experience of actually being in the queue, because I've got Genesis validators, but I thought, okay, pre-merge, we'll get another one in.
Those are your wife's validators,
yeah. Right? When I say I mean yes.
Oh, yes, obviously,
exactly right.
Obviously.
Thank you for the reminder, Mr. Taxman. So yes, my wife spun up a new validator, and it was interesting that experience being in the queue, because you put your deposit down and it just vanishes, right? You basically get no confirmation, and it took 5 or 6 days to come through and become active. And even though in principle I know what I'm doing and I know how to find out the data, it was still quite anxious time.
That is one of the most common, people come to Eth2 and they're like, I deposited and it's gone, I need to know something. And I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, it worked, but you're not going to know anything.
Yeah, and we're talking about post-merge tightening that up, because there's no the time in the deposit queue, the time in the activation queue will still be a factor, but the time between making a deposit and the chain seeing that deposit, currently it's about at 16 hours to a day. but we can tighten that up to potentially even one block.
Oh, wow.
We've been talking about that on some recent meetings, because we don't have this issue where we need some follow distance between and this voting mechanism that we have on the Eth1 chain anymore, because they're much more tightly coupled.
Great to hear it. So I guess DJR released spec version 1.2.0 release candidate 1.
Snappily named. It has got a proper name. Bobston. Yes.
Bobston.
The Robston beacon chain release. Yeah, I mean, the idea is that we do these beacon chain merges with the candidate spec for the real thing itself. So we are not expecting any substantive change between this release and the actual merge spec release, subject to finding anything nasty. If something nasty shows up, we'll have to make some changes, but this is a genuine release candidate.
It's funny, I used to get so excited about the spec releases, but now I'm kind of like, I know what's going to happen. Like it's not going to be anything too different. Let's see, Robston beacon chain. Yeah, this was the kind of fun event. It was an exciting morning for me. It's just I was like, are we can't go live on the call now because the beacon chain hasn't launched yet, so it doesn't matter if we hit TDD.
Yeah, that was a bit of a planning fumble. The graphs I've seen recently of the hash rate on Robston, I forget what it is. That's it. That one. Yes. that spike, right? So background for those who are catching up, Robston's got very low hash rate. There's no reward for mining it, so a couple of people do it out of the goodness of their hearts just to kind of keep it ticking over. A mischievous, maybe malicious miner came along and added a huge amount of hash rate to Robston, which accelerated the TTD. So you can see the total difficulty on the top graph here, and it just went vertical. So we had planned before this event, we had advertised a number, a terminal total difficulty at which we'd do the merge event. We just blasted through that due to this extra hash rate, even before the beacon chain for Robston had been deployed. So it was all a shambles, but we had to scramble to fix that. Would it be a problem for mainnet? No. I mean, nobody can increase the hash rate on mainnet by 10x, 100x. I mean, even 2x would be monumental. Somebody able to do that could do a 50% attack on 51% attack on mainnet. So somebody might be able to change a hash rate on mainnet by 1 or 2%, but
even that would only usher the merge in more quickly. It's not like they would cause any damage. They would just get us there more quickly. So fractionally more quickly. So we had a scramble to sort of just get everybody to override the TTD and set it after we then set it after the new beacon chain, Robston beacon chain had launched and all the various forks had happened and so on. So that's been advertised. It's out there now, and we expect to hit it, all being well, on Wednesday. Somebody's got to do a bit of mining. I think the EF said they would rent some hash power to usher it in to hit the 8th. So look forward to that. I actually put one of my cards. I don't have many cards now, but on Nice Hash so that I could be part of the rent cycle. But cool. If I could have DM'd the miner, I would have just asked them to wait until after the beacon chain launch so that not that would be good, but it would certainly be more fun.
Interesting. There's an exchange of messages in the block graffiti, which was interesting.
I had forgotten about that. I think I saw that at a really weird hour and then forgot to really process it.
I think if you click on the mischievous up above, then I think I linked to Tim Baker's tweet there, where he this is from the miner.
Oh, that's great. I had almost forgotten that entirely. Thanks for sharing. All right. So let's see. Robston has undergone Bellatrix fork. Now I wonder, I know for EL that's a non-event. Is that it's also a non-event for CL? Like there's nothing observable changing. It's just like more like a spec change?
Yeah, so there is some spec change. So we changed some data structures so that we can accommodate block headers from the Eth1 side. We can accommodate all of the extra information we need, and it implements the new APIs and makes the engine API active. So that's what's going on the consensus side. Yeah. So it is a proper hard fork because we do change some internals, and it seemed to go smoothly. So that's good.
Great. So everyone using Ropsten will need to update their TTD now. I'm actually using York down Thorsten's Eth2 Docker, and I think he had it pre-configured. So either he had it pre-configured or I'm going to miss the merge. It'll be fun either way. The official announcement of Ropsten merge. Always nice to see. And
that's the original one.
Is there an updated one?
Yeah, just with the updated TTD, I think.
Yes, okay.
It was announced. Yeah.
Okay. Also, Remy and York showed how to set up a Ropsten node on ETH Docker. I used that one, and Remy's non-Docker guide. If you haven't checked out,
good stuff. Yeah, all good stuff.
ETH Docker is literally like 5 clicks. The thing I always struggle with is finding where he stores private keys because they're inside the GitHub repo in a hidden directory. But once I remember where those are, everything is pudding, jello, smooth. I don't know. I'm just saying random words now. Mainnet Shadow Fork 6.
Yeah, and these things, were initially a very big deal. We all got together in Amsterdam to do number 3, I think it was, and we were all in the same room, and it felt like a huge event. This one passed by almost without comment. I mean, nobody bothered tweeting it and so on. It happened last week. Parry and Marius are kind of running these things every week. So just to remind those not familiar with mainnet shadow forks, basically sync up a merge-enabled ETH1 node on the normal Ethereum network. So it's got the whole Ethereum state, and then we pair that with beacon clients that are merge ready, and then at a given difficulty on the Ethereum network, they do the merge. So it's only a few nodes. It's a couple of dozen nodes on the Ethereum network, but they fork off the proof of work Ethereum and join the proof of stake Ethereum with the entire Ethereum state. So it's basically doing the merge itself. It's effectively the same thing. And to boot, all of the transactions that are on the Ethereum mainnet are relayed across to this merged proof of stake network. So it's a very realistic test, and we can see what problems arise. And they're getting fewer and fewer. You can track the way the charts go greener over the weeks. So various things tracking there. You can see how Aragon has improved and is now getting there with some consensus clients. So what we're discovering in the latest ones is just a couple of incompatibilities. It seems that Besu and Aragon are having a little bit of trouble proposing non-empty blocks post-merge. And Aragon with Lighthouse and Teku seems to be some sort of incompatibility, but otherwise basically everything is good. I don't think these are serious bugs. These are minor issues that need to be resolved.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know that there's a high desire. I'm going to pull this up to get. Hold on one second. To get Aragon and Besu, Nethermind, more of the market share. And I'm eager to do that. But then, I look at this kind of data, which is fine. Like, I know they're making progress, but I'm personally not sold on, full parity yet. I kind of want to, that's kind of a pun. I want to, I want to sort of let them harden the same way that Geth is hardened. That's one of the reasons I haven't quite panicked about execution diversity yet.
Yeah, it's happening. So one of the things that is happening in the background is the Ethereum Foundation has this test framework called Hive that you can plug different Ethereum clients into and test their compatibility. And it's rules based. So you write a set of tests based on rules, and there's a sort of scripting language that it uses. And there are about 110 different tests in there at the moment. So Geth, I hear on the grapevine, is committed to passing all of the tests by the end of this week, and the other clients are working on it as well. So that will formally, when they pass those tests and they formally meet the spec, some are still failing, and I think on minor things. And then the shadow fork should go through smoothly for all clients.
I don't want people to think that I'm not interested in execution layer diversity. I'm extremely committed to it, and I plan to make it a hearty focus in the next few months. But I do think like we have a little bit of time. Anyway, just my thoughts. Kiln.
Yeah, this surprised me. People have risen to the challenge. So Parry tweeted that Kiln is processing more transactions than mainnet, which is incredible because mainnet's basically full. I mean, so it's astonishing.
That is, that's incredible.
What a great test. People have really stepped up to testing the merge.
I can't wait for the POAPs and NFTs. Like that's those are the big drivers. Let's get some non-tangibles. Let's see. Proto-dank sharding. I was curious about some of this.
EIP 4844. So this is a step towards putting data availability in Ethereum, making Ethereum a data availability layer. So this is all part of the roll-up centric roadmap, big picture. And what we know now that we perhaps didn't know 5 years ago is that execution is not the main thing that the base chain needs to do. That's useful, but the main thing is data availability, to guarantee the ordering of data and that it's available to applications on the network for a period of time. And that it can't be withheld by malicious miners or parties on the network. So we want to move eventually to having massive data availability within the Ethereum base layer. So that's full dank sharding with proposer builder separations. So you have specialist block builders building big blocks with a lot of data available. And the point of having this data is that that's available very cheaply to rollups. So rollups are where all the action happens on the network, and they use the base layer to feed them the data that they need. And that's all they need. So yeah, proto-dank sharding is a step towards full dank sharding, full data availability layer. It implements some of the cryptographic primitives and some of the data structures that we need, but it doesn't do the proposer builder split thing, and it doesn't do full data availability sampling. The point of the data availability sampling is that you can reconstruct blocks if bits of them get withheld or are lost somewhere on the network. Then they can be rebuilt from the bits that remain. And then there's this whole methodology around that, which John, in the article that we looked at the top,
I was just thinking
goes
that was
into great detail on, which is terrific. So EIP 4844 is a step towards that. What's the practical? What does it mean for you and me? It means cheaper rollups. It means
Is this the thing? They were talking about this several months ago and debated doing 4844 before the merge, but they decided to delay it till afterwards. Is that the right? Right, maybe
we've talked about so many things,
so much. I know. I don't keep up either. I guess this isn't dependent on the merge. It can be on its. Okay, that's the only thing that I wanted to make sure was right in my head.
Yeah, that's correct. I don't think there's anything there in their merge dependent.
Okay. Staking. So Danny posts about the risks of LSD, which
yes,
yeah, he's trolling, right?
Liquid staking derivatives, indeed.
Yeah,
what do you make of that? I mean, you're probably more familiar with that world than I am, really.
Yeah, I took some very strong positions, and it's not that I would back down from those positions. I'm also less inclined to be. I'm more willing to step back and look for other solutions. I do believe that a majority LSD is dangerous for the network, but I also recognize the need for a lot of voices to come together and a lot of ideas and minds. Especially, Justin Drake's research proposal is fantastic. If nothing else, I'm very happy to see lead researchers standing up for the health of the chain. That to me is the thing that, we're not going to let the chain, sail down in for profit. We're going to take care of the thing that we've worked so hard to build.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting interplay between sort of in protocol and outside protocol mechanisms. I mean, I get the feeling that, we post things like, you've been through this, right, over the last months. You post, look, guys, we need to decentralize this and everything. And then, the sort of hardcore Bitcoiners start pointing the finger and saying, haha, it's Ethereum centralized and will always be. And you've just proved it by begging everyone to decentralize. Yeah. But it's an interesting trade-off that what they don't get is that all of these networks are fundamentally social consensus. Yeah. And we try as best as we can to build in crypto economic mechanisms into the protocol, which nudge people, which, encourage people to do the right thing. But fundamentally, it's about the people, and people make decisions. And if they value decentralization, that they will tend towards being more decentralized and make those decisions. So I think it is valuable, very valuable, to be having these conversations and pointing out the risks, and because ultimately the degree of centralization is decided by the people deploying validators.
Yeah. I actually had this kind of week-long thought epiphany that strength is acknowledging weakness. And when you look at other chains who refuse to acknowledge weakness, they just try to cover it up. They're not really strong at all. The strength we have is saying, hey, we have a problem. Can we talk about this? Can we do something to harden this? That really is what I believe the strength of the Ethereum community is that willingness to acknowledge weakness. And if we start hiding that, if we start denying it, then I will, I'll feel more concerned about our health than acknowledging that we need to grow. So yeah.
I think, and this is one of the things that I'm slowly getting kind of over the years, the importance of the social layer, the social consensus, over and above things like on-chain governance and things like that, which we have never done as Ethereum. And for good reason, I think. It's really interesting.
It took me a while to come to that, because I heard Vitalik not be a fan of on-chain governance at first, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's the best form of governance, and slowly I've evolved. Maybe not slowly. Like I guess I've always had an inkling of that, but social layer governance. Well, like the chain really is just a manifestation of who we are. So why we have to continue to steward that. So.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Great explainers. I love to see these. Pioneered by Eth2. So Adrian, I love that he's obviously championing checkpoint safety, checkpoint sync lately. I love to see people standing up for something they're passionate about.
Yeah, and I love Adrian's engagement with all this as well. He just kind of writes his stuff. He doesn't, this is on his blog and it's his thing. It's not part of, his Eth2 dev work. So it's terrific. And to be fair, the other clients have all implemented some form of this now as well. So it's no longer only Teku. The question is, you want to sync your beacon node very quickly. You can just get a state from somewhere and start from that state, and then sync up, a couple of dozen blocks to the head of the chain. So it's virtually instant, under a minute to fully sync a beacon node. But how can you do that safely? You can download your state from Infura, but that involves trusting Infura that they're on the right chain. Or you can, ask your friend for a state, but that involves trusting your friend's state. And Adrian explores the kind of trade-offs in this little article here. We really need better mechanisms to cross-reference. I mean, ideally, you just take the root of your state and you just can check that on Beacon Chain. You can check it on Etherscan. You can check it on the EF website. You can, check it on Infura. Just get a half a dozen and check it on Twitter. And just get a half a dozen cross-references. If they all agree, then you're good to go.
He really helped me recognize the value of checkpoint sync over syncing from root, I guess. So and that was a difficult concept because I really appreciate Adrian for sticking with it.
I mean, proof of work people are very, very wedded to the sync from Genesis mindset, which in proof of work, which is unambiguous about which chain you follow, syncing from Genesis is the gold standard. But in proof of stake, it is dangerous, and we need to change the mindset. Syncing from Genesis is a bad thing to do. Is not somehow the best but difficult. Is actually bad. Do not sync from Genesis unless you've got some sort of recent checkpoint to compare your sync with. So, and if you've got a recent checkpoint to compare your sync, you might as well just start from that checkpoint.
Yeah.
So it's a really good insight, but there is a big mindset shift needed in kind of blockchain old guard here to come to this. This is weak subjectivity for the technical name.
Finding those things that are counterintuitive and challenging those thoughts and correcting them. That's kind of a fun experience.
Yeah. And again, the hardcore proof of work people will take a dig at this, but it's Vitalik's got an old article on how I came to love weak subjectivity, and it's good. It's a good justification.
Yeah, I'm kind of over having concerns about what hardcore proof of work people say anymore. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm done. Like, I've moved on. You can keep whining all you want, but we're moving on.
Indeed.
Where do you want to head next?
We can do Uncommon Cause Merge podcast. Did you listen to that?
I didn't.
2-part podcast. This is Hazu. The first part was Danny and Tim, and second part Stefan from Flashbots joined them, and they're both just great conversations. I really good to listen to. Quality conversation between very knowledgeable people about really interesting topics, well structured, well led by Hasu. I really recommend those two podcasts.
Yeah, we're about to be in the car for an hour and a half, so I have a really strong feeling that my family will love to listen to this. Like, don't you imagine they'll love it?
I'm sure they will sleep soundly.
I am very excited to check it out. I just haven't made it a priority yet. Some of those, I have to carve out mental space sometimes to consume something like this. Like, you can't just do it on the fly. You have to say, okay, I'm going to commit. I can do this, and then really engage. So I look forward to it.
I listen to these things while I go out walking, and I like the longer form stuff because you can deal with the nuance, right? A lot of this stuff is not simple, especially. So this one discusses MEV and Lido, both of which are deep and nuanced topics with multiple viewpoints to trade off against each other, and there's no sort of yes and no answers. And you need the long form really to get the full understanding.
All right, I'm committing to that today. I'm excited now. My family will learn lots. So bankless verge of the merge. I didn't hear that either. Did you get that?
This caused a bit of excitement because Preston and
got it now. I knew what it is.
Preston and Justin Drake both said, yeah, we're gonna target the merge in August, and it's caused a huge stir on Twitter. So the video is up, so you can watch it for yourself. But yeah, it's a great discussion.
Great, yeah. I love to see folks like it. A lot of times it's the same with this. You can look at the stage and say, aha, this is going to be great. I don't care what they're talking about. It's going to be interesting.
Exactly.
Validator anonymity. I got curious about that afterwards. I was like, because I will not be able to process that really quickly, but does it have any, you go ahead.
Yeah, and so this is one of the things that we've sort of known about for a long time and hasn't been a problem yet, but is one of those potential issues on the network, in that if you know the IP address of a particular validator or an organization running 1,000 validators on one beacon node, potentially you can selectively mount DOS attack, denial of service, on that IP address and take those validators down, which gives you possibilities for manipulating the network in different ways, censorship or manipulating the RANDAO or gaining MEV for yourself or whatever. So in principle, knowing the IP address of people's validators is bad. We've got some people stake through VPN. It's not. It adds latency, so it reduces your accuracy. You can publish through multiple beacon nodes so that you've got multiple IP addresses, which makes it much harder to discover you and harder to mount denial of service attack against 3 IPs, stuff like that. But the gold standard is to do I forget the name of a single secret leader election, whereby the network doesn't know who the block proposer is until the actual slot, and only the actual proposer knows that it's their turn. So suddenly I find out, it's my turn to propose next slot, and the rest of the network doesn't know that. But afterwards, I can prove that it was my turn and I acted correctly.
But that doesn't actually give anonymity, though. That's just a workaround, right? Or a different. Solving the problem a different way.
Correct. Okay. So that sidesteps the issue of being able to selectively mount a DOS attack, because the attacker doesn't know which of the 10,000 IP addresses on the network is the one that's the right one to hit. Yeah. So we have this single secret leader election idea. Vitalik, there are a lot of different approaches have been proposed to this, involving snarks and other mechanisms. But Vitalik proposed a mechanism sort of using some the swap or not shuffle that we already use in protocol, which looked interesting. Somebody has done an analysis on it and found that it in the form that Vitalik proposed it is not good enough.
Yeah.
But
is that does that anonymize IPs, or is that you said that's another in protocol solution? So that's
another single secret leader election kind of approach. Yeah.
I do get curious about hiding IPs. I'm not even gonna try to say the word anymore, but does this address obfuscating IPs, or is it on protocol changes?
This would be in protocol. Hang on, I'm thinking of the wrong article here. This is yeah, sorry, this is not Vitalik's thing. This is also
yeah.
That's the third paragraph here is Vitalik swap or not shuffle around single secret leader election. This one is about actual validator anonymity, using Dandelion network, which is out of protocol.
Got it.
Yeah, but again, it looks kind of impractical. So we've got two things here which are going on around the same issue, neither of which currently look practical. So
yeah, I'm like, when we get to this stage, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
great.
It's in the open research questions bucket, and yeah, if any great minds will want to come along and give it a look, some sort of onion routing or whatever, it would be really, really interesting.
Yeah, that's onion routine is kind of what I was thinking, and it just you wonder if that's possible. But what you end up with is a set of, well, naively, because I haven't really thought through it, but you end up with a set of validators who are all in an onion network with each other, and so even the exit addresses are validator nodes. Anyway, I really loved Mario Havel's. This is my favorite toy lately. I'm staring at it. We already pulled it up once, but where's it at? No, it's the Bordel tool, right?
Yeah.
But I really love. I've been checking it, 4 or 5 times a day just to see where we're at toward merge. This has actually changed since the last time we looked at it.
It has.
It did have that. Wow, there's a lot of different data here now. Anyway, just very interesting. I'm telling people, that the target is noon. I'm sorry, 12 p.m. June 8th, which my local time is around 7 a.m. or 9 a.m.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, if the current hash rate is 0.36 gigahashes a second and we need 34, then you better overclock your box.
It just takes one cannon, right? Well, I mean, one well-sized cannon to point and fire. So we'll see. I was interested in this. Nethermind's interested in pushing it back for 3 to 4 months, and others want to keep the pressure on. And what you said here really got me.
Right. So this is around when merge, and I think let's assume Ropsten goes well. If Ropsten doesn't go well, then all bets are off, right? Yeah. So assume Ropsten goes well. Then I think on Friday at the All Core Devs meeting will be the serious conversation about when merge. And question 1 is, do we push back the difficulty bomb? There have been some initial skirmishes in this, initially at the All Core Devs a week and a half ago, and also at a merge testing call this time last week. And yeah, the Nethermind team are arguing we should push back the bomb by 3 to 4 months for various reasons, partly around user experience on Ethereum, but also because I think they feel they're not ready for merge at this time. So others, the Geth team are pretty keen to get on with it. I'm very keen to get on with it. I know that Danny, Ryan, Preston, sorry, I should say, I don't know what Danny's view is on this. I should say Justin Drake and Preston, very keen to get on with it on the other side. So my kind of observation of the community with this distributed network of independent teams, and the tendency is to move at the pace of the slowest, right?
Which is frustrating, to say the least. Not in a bad way, like it's healthy sometimes.
And I'm not detecting much of a sense of urgency. Maybe I'm incorrect, but yeah, certainly Nethermind's team, when they were presenting their arguments for delaying 3 to 4 months, were like, what's a few more weeks on proof of work and so on. So, which for me is just horribly complacent. I think proof of work, proof of waste, we need to turn it off at the earliest possible opportunity. If another few weeks, another few months on proof of work for me is a tragedy. So yeah, go on.
I spend a lot of my time defending Ethereum, like I guess publicly, locally, to people I know who only know about the damage that cryptocurrency does to the environment. And I spend a lot of my time saying we are better than that. We are moving beyond that. Ethereum is not part of that, energy expensive kind of thing that of as cryptocurrency. And so I feel like every day that we stay on proof of work, we are especially when we can or probably could move forward safely. It's just difficult. I love your word scandal. Like it is a scandal. We can move beyond this. We're so close.
Yeah. And we shouldn't go too early. We shouldn't do it unsafely, but and I don't want to leave anyone behind either. So And the answer to this, I think, is to have a sense of urgency, right? I mean, this is not a sort of second or third most important thing we're doing with our clients. This is it. There's, there was talk on one of the meetings about getting all the clients passing the Hive tests we discussed by mid-July. I mean, why is it going to take 6 weeks? Why don't we do it this week? Okay, just put your whole team on it. Let's just do it this week. And so the question, and that's how things get done in this community, in this distributed community, is when we all get together and focus, our laser eyes on the problem. This is when there's this sense of urgency.
This guy comes to mind. Just do it.
Yeah, too right. So I'm wondering where this sense of urgency comes from, and either it comes from this difficulty bomb, which is maybe too urgent. It's starting to become a problem, but I'm for leaving it in place and just getting the merge done and just keeping that pressure on. But if we do decide to delay the difficulty bomb, I think we need to keep the heat on the devs. We need to kind of not let ourselves off the hook for 2-3 months.
I feel like we've learned so many times the Ropsten merge is not going to go flawlessly. Like, let's not delude ourselves. Nothing ever goes flawlessly. There are going, like, we should just acknowledge that. Like, if it going perfectly is the exception rather than the rule. So I guess we just have to take that in stride.
Yeah, goes well. Yeah, perfect.
Well, unrealistic.
It's maybe too much to ask for, but goes well enough.
If we survive with one implementation running well, then maybe that's.
So yeah, I mean, my suggestion, and we'll see if it's how it goes. Maybe raise it on the all-core devs call. Is if we do delay the bomb, then let's set a date. Let's break with tradition, and and we saw that with the Beacon Chain launch. It was only when Danny came out, he did a bit of due diligence with the dev teams and said, "Can you be ready for such and such a date?" Then announced publicly, we do Genesis 1st of December, and at that point, if we everyone pulled together to meet that date.
That final consensus is difficult.
Yeah, I'd like to see that again, though.
I just sort of recognize this trend line of what I would describe as community willingness to accept a slow block times. And I think right now, we're no longer willing to accept slow block times, but it is what it is. I'm ready.
Indeed.
I'm ready for 80-second blocks. Give them to me.
80-second blocks. Yeah, I mean, the kind of flip side is there are two potentially negative consequences. If block time goes too long, that becomes a hazard for the merge, because we're in a regime that we
that's right.
are not used to. Now, Ropsten has been interesting for that. It's already, because Ropsten's had very variable block time, especially with this sort of huge extra mining, decrease block times rapidly, and then when the miner switched their rig off, block times increased massively. This revealed a problem with voting on the Eth2 chain and all of that onboarding validator stuff. And the other thing is that, if, let's say, block times double, then a response to that is to increase the block gas limit so that the gas per second is constant, which is okay for a while. But it leads to having bigger blocks. And we're not testing in that regime because we don't anticipate that. So it adds another dimension of uncertainty.
It does end up getting us into risky areas, and I think that we are too mature of a chain to get even a little risky. We need to be safe. I acknowledge that. Just down here I saw Stearium. I'm a huge fan of Stearium.
Tell me what. I sort of keep an eye, I see the Twitter feed and so on, but I haven't really done a deep dive into this. What's your take on it?
Oh, I love Stearium. I love the team. It's funny, we spend so much time saying we need a single click installer or staking, whatever, and Stearium is essentially that. You set up a Linux box and you connect to it remotely from a Windows box and manage everything through the Stearium interface. It's very well designed. They even have they've implemented Jim's Vouch or I don't know if Dirk, but at least Vouch. So it's very well set up, or very well. It's just, I mean, you can look at the interface and see that it's
yes.
just really nice. It's a great way to, and this is obviously the beta. I've never used this interface myself, but the current version is very user friendly. I'd really recommend it for anyone who wants to administer a Linux staking setup from a Windows box. So yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I should take a look.
All right. Anything else you want? Hey, I saw my name.
There we go.
Oh, okay, yeah, we
shilling our thing. Yeah.
I do want to talk about the merge call series that ETH Sticker's working on, and you can find sources for that in 2 places.
Oh, ETH Sticker's gone.
I typed it incorrectly. So Unvetica has done this great blog post about what we know about the merge staking series. Because so many of the details are still kind of nebulous, we can really only see Ropsten right now. And around June 8th, we're going to do Ropsten. We have a YouTube placeholder, so you can go ahead and click remind, I guess it's remind me or schedule this or something, and you'll be able to get a notification when this video goes live.
All right, even if it's several hours adrift from the.
Well, yeah, because it's not going to happen when it's supposed to, right? It never does.
So you've assumed midday GMT, but it could be hours before or after.
Yeah, I don't think anyone. I guess it all depends on when people turn their miners on. I have seen, we have some really great DevOps people. I'm thinking of Perry, but I don't know who's running who's running this nice hash setup. But whoever takes that charge is likely to take a lot of pride in hitting a target, and so we'll see, right?
Yeah, that'll be fun. I'll clear out my Wednesday lunchtime in anticipation.
Maybe Wednesday all day. We'll see. All right. Ben, I always love walking through the newsletter with you. I don't do it for you. You do it for me. It has been a great time, and I look forward to seeing you again. Would I say fortnightly? Or no,
in a fortnight, yes.
In a fortnight. I'm learning. I've really tried to, my goal in life is to use that word correctly.
It's to learn Shakespearean English, absolutely.
Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.